Welcome to another session of Bettong Bungalow, our show where we talk all things science and the environment. It's our conversation about conservation. I'm Ranger Mel, and this Bettong Bungalow is being held on traditional land, the land of the Ngunnawal people. I'd like to acknowledge and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'd like to thank them for caring and for sharing the land we learn and live on. Now tonight, we're talking about one of my favourite animals, and I was really lucky to spot one today, so it was kind of perfect. We're talking about the echidna. It's such a fascinating animal. And I thought I'd use the echidna to kind of highlight our volunteer program. You'll find out why. Joining me tonight is Lauren Brown, who coordinates our volunteer program here.
I know.
Hello. And also one of our wonderful volunteers, Andrew Easy.
G'day, Mel.
So welcome. Thanks for coming in for Bettong Bungalow. It's fun to have you here in the studio. Now, before we get into the volunteer program and what we do here when it comes to echidnas, I want to talk about the curious creature. And Andrew, I'm going to pick on you first because we must point out you're not a scientist.
Yep.
In your day job, you're a civil engineer. But I've got a new term for you. You're a citizen expert. Or echidna nerd.
Echidna nerd, yep.
So, rumour has it you know all things echidnas. Lots and lots of things.
I know a
about
fair
echidnas.
bit, yeah.
Why do you have such a love for the echidna?
They're just such an interesting animal. They're different to pretty much everything else. And one of the things I like about them is you can sit there and watch one, and you can watch one for hours, and they just do their thing, and they really don't care about you being there. And I just love that, just being able to sit and watch.
Do you know, that's exactly what happened today. We were out at Mulligan's flat with the Tales and Trails kids. That's the early childhood program we run. And so I got all the kids to stop. Let's be really, really quiet. Let's not go very close. And then the echidna couldn't care less.
Yeah. They sort of hunker down to start with,
Yes.
and go all quiet. And then if you're quiet, they'll sort of stick the snout out, and they'll just go about their business again, and slowly just.
And to have 10 to 15, 3 to 5-year-olds watching an echidna pretty much in silence for 15 minutes, that's a bit of a record for me.
Yeah, they're a bit spellbinding like
so
that.
the kids, and we're going to start with their questions. The kids started throwing all sorts of questions at me.
Yep.
So I said, don't worry kids, if you watch tonight, I'm going to throw the questions at my citizen expert Andrew.
Pressure is on.
How long do they live?
Oh, that's an interesting one. Longest I've heard of is about 45 to 50 years in captivity.
50 years?
Yeah, 50 years.
Wow.
Okay. It'd be interesting to know some of the ones we've got out here, because I first spotted some of them probably 10, 15 years ago. And you do become familiar with some of them after a while. They recognise you, you recognise them. So I know we've got some out there that have been around a while, at least that sort of length of time. But it would be interesting to come back in 10, 20 years' time and find out who's still around. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, one of the other kids asked, can they lose their quills?
Yes, they can, because the quill's basically just a modified version of your hair, made of the same stuff. You can lose hair. Yes, they lose quills. Not so often. I know there's some Indigenous artists around that use quills that have fallen out of echidnas.
As paintbrush?
No, actually, I saw one that had used a whole bunch of quills as necklace decoration, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So presumably they've found them around.
Fallen out.
To be honest, I've only ever seen one out in the sanctuary. So probably not that often, but. And
so the one we were looking at today, it seemed to have like a patch of quills missing. But now talking to you a little bit earlier, maybe they'll just flatten down. Do they lose patches?
I don't know that they'd lose patches, not unless they were attacked by something like a fox or
a cat.
Or a cat or something like that, and that's definitely not the case in Mulligan's Flat. I know that they do spread themselves out nice and flat, a bit like a lizard does in the sun, and they'll sunbake for a bit, so whether that explains it.
And can they swim?
Yes.
Because we've had a lot of water around at the moment at Mulligan's Flat.
Look, that was always a goal of mine, was to film an echidna having a swim.
Wow.
And I spotted, a couple of years back, one having a bit of a paddle, just in a decent sized puddle. And then more recently spotted another one having a bit of a swim around in the dam. And I did a bit of reading on that, and it turns out that, and I can confirm this, they swim just for the fun of it.
Really?
Yep.
A bit like how dolphins like to play just for fun.
They just go for a paddle. So you'll see them, they'll go for a swim out in a dam, do a couple of laps and then come back out.
So they're not trying to get rid of insects or they're trying to get rid of dust. They're just having a swim.
They'll have a mud bath to get rid of insects and to cool down. But swimming, I think, is just
for fun.
Either they want to cross to the other side.
Even more.
Or,
now, the parents also had plenty of questions today at Tales and Trails. I'm going to ask you those as we go along. But let's talk about the echidna sweep. So, Andrew, you might be able to tell us a bit of the history of the sweep, because even though Lauren now coordinates it, Lauren's new with us this year, which is very exciting. Tell us about the history. How did the sweep kick off?
Basically, it was a need to find out how many echidnas we've got out there in Mulligan's Flat, and then to really sort of establish a baseline and figure out whether the population's going up, going down, whether it's steady, just to sort of get a handle on it. What have we been doing that? 5 years now?
This was our 5th year.
5th year. And was it prompted when the BBC came to visit us? Tell us how that kind of kicked it off.
We were keeping track of a few of the echidnas prior to the BBC coming out, and just to be able to find some echidnas so that we weren't tracking them down when they were here. We're putting little radio trackers on them. But I think that was the year that we kicked off the echidna sweeps.
Because the BBC made a video or
a
documentary? What
did they make? Look, the video that we did, I say we because I got to do a bit of filming with them.
Oh, wow, what an experience. For someone who
excellent.
loves to do amateur filming, that was really amazing.
Yeah, that was a dream for me. Where were we going to there?
So what was it called? What was the BBC series called?
The filming that they were doing was for 7 Worlds, 1 Planet.
Oh, beautiful.
It turned out in the end, unfortunately, that the echidna piece didn't make it into the final video, but they kindly released a lovely little video, sort of a mockumentary kind of piece.
Just for you to have.
Yeah.
And I think too, being formerly from the media, I understand that completely. You do a lot of filming, you do a lot of recording, and not always be able to take it to the final cut. So let's talk about how the echidna sweep works. And we've got a little photo here of a body line. We're just going to show you the sweep line. So we'll get the little video up.
We're off.
You can see them all standing here. Now, why is everybody standing sort of 5 metres apart from each other, walking in this line for the sweep?
What we were trying to do was maximise the number of echidnas that we were finding. So basically we line up similar to an SES kind of search and rescue effort. And we literally just walk in a line and any echidnas that we find, someone will yell out, "I've got an echidna!"
And you can see we'll just have this other video here as it goes along. It's quite slow. It's not like people are running along. It's kind of just strolling in a way. It looks like a stroll, but people are really scanning as they go around.
Yeah,
you can see here that people having a look and having to step over logs, and you have to go exactly in the line you've got.
We were trying to stick with going as straight ahead as you can. Obviously, that's not always possible out in Mulligan's Flat because there's fallen timber, there's trees, there's stuff everywhere.
And this year, a lot of water. We had to run through water.
A lot of water, so there was a lot of trudging through some pretty deep water at times.
Yeah.
But we're walking so slowly because the echidnas are sometimes so hard to find, particularly early in the morning. They'll have a bit of a sleep in.
Yeah.
But that was a cool sort of day after we'd had quite a bit of wet weather as well.
Yeah.
So, the echidnas were pretty much, you almost had to step on some of them before you'd even see them.
Well, let's go to a little video now of you painting an echidna. Why is it they're getting a little bit of a makeup session here? We've got some nail polish. And you can see you're just getting the nail polish, hot pink, and painting the echidna here. And you'll see someone's has a little jump around there. Why are we painting the echidna quills with nail polish?
It's basically to identify individual echidnas. We originally tried putting short sections of straw on them with some super glue. That turned out to be kind of messy when you've got to your 10th echidna and you've got super glue everywhere. And so we tried it with some nail polish, and that turned out to be quite effective. It lasts for about 4 months before it starts to fade, and then you can't tell which one's which anymore. But for that period of time, it's really
We've got a nice photo here of Cedric who's one of our other keen volunteers, painting an echidna. So you can see you've got the... Is there a code to it, Andrew?
Yeah, there is. We put 3 different colours down the left and the right side. So so the 3 colours are a code and match up with an echidna number.
So I'll bring Lauren here to tell us what has been the trends of the last few years. How many numbers have we seen when we do these surveys?
Yeah, so this year was our 5th year. So the first year was 2016, and that first sweep was done by a really small group of volunteers that must have walked till about midnight, and they found 50. Well, there was 51 was the estimated population, and that was a really wet year, like this year. The numbers stayed pretty steady until last year, where we got 71.
So it's jumped.
It has jumped, which I guess makes sense. They're in a predator-proof fence, and that is why we're monitoring them.
Yeah, okay. And so let's just have a little look at this video of the volunteers, just to show you how many volunteers turn up. This is Sunday morning, 9 o'clock. People have given up their sleep-ins, and here they are all lining up, ready to go, listening to Andrew, who's giving the safety briefing and how we're going to find the echidnas. And Lauren, this is quite an amazing amount of people. How many volunteers do you need to run the sweep?
Yeah, this has to be the biggest volunteer activity that we run, and I think this year was probably the most we've had. We had about, because it's run over 2 weekends, we had about 50 the first weekend and about 60 people the second weekend. So yeah, it's a big task organising it.
It is a huge task. Now, like all good science, when you start collecting data, you're going to have some challenges. So we've had this dream run of finding out how many echidnas there are. But this year, Lauren, we've had a big challenge, and you just had to break the news to Andrew then. What happened? What have we found with this year, like all good science projects?
Yeah, so I actually emailed people today, but Andrew says he didn't get the email.
Yes, his other job, his day job.
So unfortunately, this year, the vegetation was so high, which is absolutely wonderful. Obviously, we've been in drought. So it's a good thing, but it made it really tricky to find them. And Andrew, you might bring up a photo of an echidna hiding. Yeah, you can see there. Well, hopefully everyone at home can see the echidna. The volunteer did have to practically stand on it.
It's right in like a tree hole there? Or
it's in a sort of tree well.
Yeah, right.
So it is... unfortunately, the way it works, we didn't find enough echidnas on the second week to give us the ability and the data to work out an estimated population for this year that we're happy with.
So too much grass is kind of a good problem.
Yeah.
And be able to see Mulligan's flat come alive again with the colours. We went through a field of chocolate lilies today, but I guess when it comes to this, it hampers data collection.
Yeah, it certainly did. And we also had parts of the sanctuary that were completely underwater. So although they like swimming, I don't think we were really thinking that we would find many in those swampy areas.
So with this, I mean, this data has been collected, and Millie, who is our one of our scientists here, obviously helps with the science side of things. Are we able to see any trends? You said last year, massive drought, we had our biggest number. Yeah. Any trends that come out yet, or it's still too early with the 5 years?
I think it's still a bit early. I mean, I think we thought we would actually have at least similar to last year, if not more. Mm-hmm. I know Andrew was out early in the season and saw plenty of babies walking around. So I guess we were a little bit surprised. We just couldn't find them.
Just a bit. Do you think do we know what outside the fence, as we call it, what populations are doing at all, Andrew? Do we know how they're going
really
at all?
hard to know that. Now, there are a couple of projects going on outside of the sanctuary, but I haven't kept track of.
Because outside the fence, obviously cats and foxes are a big issue. Is that the main predators for the echidnas?
Yep.
So we do have them at Jerrabomba Wetlands as well, but not as many as we've seen here at Mulligan's Flat. So let's talk about the volunteer program here at Mulligan's Flat. So this is just one of our programs, the Echidna Sweep, and Andrew is one of the team leaders and does an amazing job helping there with the volunteers. But what kind of people do we have join our program? Because I feel like one week I'm talking to a Year 12 student out doing turtle patrol. The next week I'm talking to some fantastic people who've just retired and want to get involved and help out at Trails and Trails. The next week we've got people out, doing a echidna sweep like we saw in that video, lots of different people.
Yeah.
We've got all these different ages. How come, Lauren?
Yeah, look, I've only been here since January, and I absolutely love this volunteer community. It is a really different large demographic that volunteer here with the Trust, and I think it's because we're really unique. And our activities are quite flexible. We have things that busy parents could just come once a year and do the echidna sweep.
I have to say, the echidna sweep was so much fun. My little girl said, well, can we go back again tomorrow? I said, it's not on tomorrow. And when you're looking at something that cute and seeing these echidnas, who wouldn't want to come along?
It was my first time doing the sweep, and I honestly had so much fun.
Really fun.
It is ridiculously exciting when you find an echidna.
So that's one activity. You've got the echidna sweeps you do. What else what other things do our volunteers do?
One of the other biggest activities, I would say, is our turtle patrol, which some of our viewers might have heard. Again, because of the predator-proof fence, and during the breeding season, the turtles like to migrate. So almost every day of the week, we've got 3 fence lines that are being patrolled by a sort of volunteer group of about 60 to 70 people have been trained for turtle patrol.
And so they're just looking for the turtles and moving them away from the fence to a water source.
They're moving them usually to the other side of the fence. So in weather where it's not too hot, the turtles are okay. But when it gets hot, they just sit there and they bake. They do not turn around and go back.
Okay.
So that actually this year, so that started in September. This year, we've moved over 250 turtles.
Whoa, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's massive.
So, and that's a huge group of volunteers that go out, like I said, 7 days a week walking out.
And do we do the traditional volunteering, weeding and that kind of thing as well, that people often do in reserves?
Yeah, we do. So we're part of Canberra Nature Park. So Mulligan's Flat the land is managed by ACT Parks and Conservation. So they run Park Care, which is a group of volunteers all over Canberra, but there's one specific for Mulligan's Flat that do monthly working bees.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So you don't need to give much time commitment. Can you just do one thing a month, or
absolutely
just come once a year, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I encourage anyone to volunteer. Once you're on our database, you'll start receiving emails about the activities, and many of them are seasonal because they're monitoring, and some of them are 5-minute bird surveys or
Amazing.
2 full weekend days looking for echidnas. So,
I had volunteers help me with the Tales and Trails program, the story time, and that is so helpful when you've got 15 little children running around and mums with babies. It's really nice to have the volunteers just kind of herding cats. It's wonderful to have that extra help.
Good.
So they've been so helpful.
Yeah.
So do you need more volunteers at the moment, or you get to a point you're like, no, I'm done?
We'll keep taking volunteers.
Oh,
there's
wonderful.
nothing here really stopping us. There's all our activities. As I said, people can hop on. If there's a roster, they can choose their own shifts. They can do as much or as little as they like.
Now, the visitor host program, that's been a lot of work. You've been training up some of our volunteers to become visitor hosts. What are the visitor hosts?
So the visitor hosts the aim is that, again, some of our viewers might know, we've got a new building opening in Throsby, hopefully next year, a visitor centre. Our visitor hosts will be there to welcome people, take people on tours. Andrew's
you've done
trained up. Yep.
Yes,
wonderful.
he's signed off, so he's ready to go.
Great.
So our visitor hosts have learnt about the landscape, our cultural values, the animals, the research. So what we did to start them engaging with the public is on Sunday mornings they're stationed at our main gate, or the Woodland Gate, from about 9 a.m. for a couple of hours. Come along and they can chat to you either about the animals, what you might see. They can advise you perhaps some nice places to go for a walk.
So if you manage to get a Sunday when Andrew's there, you can just grill him about echidnas, which would be wonderful. What a great idea. So that means they'll be there until we have our new building opened.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Yep. That's wonderful. And so the future of the visitor host program then, once they're in the building, how's that going to look?
Yeah, so I think you can expect to come into our building and be greeted. You can expect to have perhaps a 10-minute introductory tour, but we've also got volunteers with quite specialist knowledge as well about birds, echidnas, all sorts of things. So we're going to have them come and present sort of, 5-10 minute talks, probably out in the sanctuary. So,
wonderful. And I think this is just the joy of living in Canberra, is that everybody is a citizen expert in something. It doesn't take very long if you're having a chat to somebody at a party or a barbecue and you find out they're an absolute nerd on one particular subject, and you're sorted for the barbecue. You don't have to talk about the weather. You can talk about echidnas, don't you think, Andrew?
That's right, and that's one of the joys of actually being out in the sanctuary and talking to people.
Yes.
I've learned as much from other people as hopefully they've learned something from me as well.
Definitely.
So that's a great thing.
Well, thank you so much for coming and talking about the echidna sweeps and answering
Very
some
welcome.
of the Tales and Trails kids' questions, and also telling us about the volunteer program.
Thanks, Mel.
And it's just been it's a real joy this year to see so many volunteers out about helping our rangers and helping our programs, and we're so excited about 2021. We'll be able to do even more of that. And the other exciting news I have is that Twilight Tours, which is our wonderful tour in the sanctuary at night, so you can see what Australia and our area would have been like before all of the foxes and cats and predators turned up. That's now being offered on a Monday, and it's a month until Christmas today. So if you're struggling and you've been given the Secret Santa and you have no idea what to buy for Auntie Mabel, well, now you know what to buy. You can go and get a Twilight tour, and we have gift cards, and then you're sorted. You don't have to do anything else because they kick off in January, and that's a really easy gift. Job done. Tick. So I've done your Christmas shopping for you as well. I'm Ranger Mel, and it's been so lovely tonight to have Andrew Easy, who's one of our volunteers here on Bettong Bungalow, and also Lauren Brown, who is our volunteer coordinator. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in 2 weeks for the final Bettong Bungalow for the year, when we're going to have a bit of a mashup of all of the fun sessions we've had, and also talk about the year that was, how we managed to survive COVID and bushfires, and how we are going to look forward to 2021. I'll see you all in 2 weeks.